Moving into his place. Advice. Update. Thanks all for the replies. I've got plenty to mull over now. Some great advice. My boyfriend and I have been together for over 2 years. We've met each other's friends and family. Spend about 50% of nights per week together. I'm still in my parents' house. He has his own house. We've naturally arrived at the point where it makes sense and we're ready for me to move in. Neither of us have lived with ASO before though. Anything in particular we should prepare ourselves for? My BF bought his house just before we started dating. So I've seen the work that went into fixing up, and the work still left to do. There is still some major decorating etc. I don't want to move into an incomplete house, so we've put a lot of effort into fixing up to both of our tastes. I'm happy splitting the cost for furniture and that, but he feels he should be putting the costs up for some of the bigger things, which he says he really should have sorted by now anyway. I don't want to feel as though things aren't mine too though. Should I be firm with going 50-50? Other finances also to be discussed. What is fair? No matter the outcome, he'll be a bit better off financially, but I'm not sure how I feel about contributing towards mortgage payments for a property that is not mine. I also don't want my BF to feel like my landlord. He hasn't expressed any expectations for me to do this. I'm just speculating. I'd be happy taking over some of the bills and just splitting things like groceries etc. What do people think? We're both pretty excited, like looking forward to simple things like being able to spend evenings together after long shifts without it being second thought. Hope we can keep that novelty up. Smiley face. Too long didn't read. Advice for couple living together, finances and other things. My partner and I had to move in together for about 3 to 4 months earlier this year because of COVID circumstances, so I have some advice based on that, plus having lived with roommates before. Not about finances at all, but sit down and have a really good conversation about cleaning. What does clean mean to you and the family you come from? Does it mean spotless, or does it mean a little messy but no active infestations? What is a pet peeve you have about household chores? My partner struggles with doing dishes because it kills his ADHD. I hate doing the trash because the garage is spooky. Will you two clean up for each other? Will you do a rotating chore run? This is not a thing you can just figure out when you get to it. It can really build up resentments, and you both have to nip those in the bud. Something we started doing 2 months in, and are still doing now that we're in separate spaces again, is doing a weekly check-in. Sit down, put your phones down, be calm and fed and watered, and talk about how it's going. Do not schedule over this unless you are both genuinely needing to skip it or are able to reschedule it. This has honestly felt like mini therapy for both of us and has helped us bring up a lot of small snags and figure them out. I think it's also taught us how to actively listen to each other and how to communicate issues. I think these talks can also help you work through how finances are working, and if there need to be tweaks made. I promise, even if you spend a lot of time together, it's the little things that can build up. Good luck! Exclamation mark. Think of it more like paying rent and not putting money into his mortgage. I don't think it will be like a landlord. You would have to be paying rent anyway. But yeah, you could pick up other bills instead. I'm not sure on paying for furniture and stuff. I moved in with my now wife right after the army. I didn't have jack shit cause I lived in the barracks. I don't think we bought any big items for a while, but we split a lot of the littler things like shelves and wall decorations. My only other advice is it's okay to not want to spend an evening together. There are many times me and my wife will only talk for an hour after work and then a bit during dinner, but then be in separate rooms the rest of the evening doing our own things. Most people need some space occasionally. Think about your living situation if you were moving out on your own. Could you afford a place by yourself? Would you need a roommate? Do some math based on those things. Side note, I think everyone should learn how to live alone and be self-sufficient before moving in with WSO. If you all aren't married, I would advise against putting much of your finances into any costly projects/repairs in the house. Beyond that, You two need to talk and come to an agreement about finances. I know it's awkward, but strangers on the internet don't know anything about your relationship or the financial situations either of you are in. The absolute worst thing you can do is not have clear communication about this stuff before moving in. So get off Reddit and go talk to your BF, and don't get in your head too much. Living together is great, but the only way it can possibly work is if you guys talk to each other. Any money that goes into decorating the house, in terms of bigger renovations, should come from his pocket. He is totally correct, he would be the only one to benefit if you did split up, so big stuff is on him. Shows he is likely a good guy, BTW. In terms of smaller things like furniture, just buy stuff individually, even if you decide together, so it will be easy to sort out if things don't work out. In terms of rent, it's totally fair that you should be paying some rent. His advantage to owning the property is the wealth that accrues combined with a lower monthly payment than rent. Your advantage, unless you buy into the property, or get married, is that your rent will be much lower than it would be in an equally sized rental property. Plus you get a bigger say in how it looks. If he's wealthy enough, he can choose not to charge you rent, but that doesn't mean you don't get a say about stuff. He won't be your landlord, it's your home, both of yours, but it's his house. You are helping him, in terms of the money, but that doesn't mean it is a landlord-tenant relationship. By the nature of it being your home, you have a right to an equal opinion, but you also don't have to pay anything more towards it. In terms of amounts to pay for rent, and any shared expenses in a situation with unequal incomes, I just go with a simple ratio. Say he earns $4,000 per month after tax, and you earn $1,000, so it's 4-to-1. He pays 4/5 of any shared expenses, you pay 1/5, you both lose the same proportion of your income, and you both have the same proportion left over for individual expenses, or gifts. You adjust this as the ratio changes, of course. It means everyone is contributing equally hard, as opposed to a blunt 50-50, which is equal, but not really loving, and not much of a partnership. So if his mortgage was 1,000 piece, your rent should be 200 piece. I, 32F, resent my boyfriend, 32M, about introducing kinky sex and polyamory to me. Long story short, I was always a deeply sexual person, but growing up in a non-Western culture, South Korea, I was never exposed to kinky or BDSM culture. I am bisexual, yet I had a happy vanilla, monogamous relationship with my ex-boyfriend for about 6 years. And I came to the US, broke up with him and explored the dating/hookup scene. I had some shitty experiences. There was an attractive athlete guy who told me I had my ex-girlfriend fucked by 5 black men and that was the best. Are you kinky? Or a muscular Russian guy who almost used a Korean woman as his sex toy without a consent. She barely spoke English. He said he later tried to pimp her out to his friend, and she finally cried and resisted. All these stories were shocking, and lowered my self-esteem a bit. And then I slept with my current boyfriend. I had known him for about 2 years, we were both international students in the same program / and sorta wrote him off because he didn't look like a serious person. Too sex positive. I didn't know the word sex positive back then, and bisexual. But after going through all the bad guys in the dating market, I gave him a chance and we started all the kinky things together. It was a Christmas break and things got sorta magical. We got totally caught in passion. We did lots of crazy stuff, rope, toys, in the car, collar, socks, foot stuff, and it blew my mind. He suddenly looked like a prince and I fell in love. Somehow he looked above my league. He's tall, preppy, blonde and blue-eyed, well-educated, well-traveled, and has a charming extroverted personality. People still give him a praise like "Bo today I fucked up a man" or "Oh his blue eyes." Initially I felt like if he were not bisexual and kinky, he would be the person who would not even like me on Tinder. My self-esteem was a bit low. And we started a sorta long-distance relationship and he demanded an open relationship. I never knew the concept of polyamory or open relationship before, but it made sense and I gave it a try. It was a rocky road. I agreed with the open relationship term partially because I was madly in love, couldn't stop thinking about him a second, and I wanted to keep him. But for the first couple months, I never slept with anyone while he was hooking up with other kinky men for some fetish stuff. He even made me say hi to one of his former male hookups who was Chinese, which I felt was humiliating as a woman and as an Asian person. He had all good intention because he believed in polyamory and ethical non-monogamy, but I was not philosophically prepared for that. In retrospect, I would have refused to do that, but at that time I did, because somehow I wanted to assimilate with the new culture that he introduced. I had the desperate need to assimilate with the Western culture in general. Then I realized that he's actually leaning towards submissive, so I started pegging him with a strap-on dildo. I bought that in a nearby adult toy store and brought it to his place. Since receiving anal sex was his ultimate taboo in his life, he got totally hit by that and started feeling really attached to me. In some sense I messed him up the same way he messed me up. He said I turned the table. He denies that that is the reason why he fell in love with me. But I sometimes still suspect so. After I started doing that, his attitude towards me changed a lot. Thinking that way doesn't give me a pleasant feeling though. While we were separate spatially, he continued to hook around and it bothered me. For example, he hooked up with a gay man. The guy tried to use popper on himself, a chemical drug that functions as a muscle relaxant and by mistake spilled it into my BF's eye. BF doesn't do anal sex with men and I trust him on that, but the popper incident was still upsetting and disturbing. Also he once sucked a man's thing without a condom and I found it upsetting because of the risk of STD. The biggest thing that upset me was that he started watching sissification, cross-dressing and being a submissive like a girl porn/hentais. At this point I was totally exhausted. Before then, I could make sense of most of the new concepts he introduced to me such as polyamory, open relationship, kinks, bondage, and male bisexuality, even though I had to process a lot. I tended to overthink, read a lot to understand him, and try to become an open-minded mother-like figure who can understand most of his secrets and kinks and imperfection. I was repelled by what I saw on FetLife, Kinky People's Facebook / but still tried to understand all of that. But when he started sending me cross-dressing shopping mall websites and sissification hentais, it was the last straw. I said I can't take this anymore and I don't want to continue the relationship. He reacted to me in very disappointing ways such as getting angry, resentful, and saying that he's gonna cancel everything we planned, and he also tried to sell one of my tickets to his friend. I think he reacted to me in a childish way and it was another big turn off. Well, the thing was we already booked lots of trips together. I was very depressed at that time and I didn't want to give up on all the trips. And I read some stupid toxic relationship coaching in my native language, saying that you should put up with your man's things one more time when you wanna give up everything / so I went to his place again. Then we reconciled. He stopped watching sissy stuff and fervently convinced me that it's not his primary kink so he can stop completely. He still had fantasies about threesome so he organized a session with me and a transgender man. I ended up engaging in the threesome session. It was interesting, the trans guy was very respectful. It was another attempt of mine to try to assimilate into the Western culture since threesome is much more common and casually accepted here. Well, did I like it? It was not something I was hugely into. I just thought that I'll keep seeing him until I find someone better. I was lonely and I was not brave enough to lose him, since he became more and more affectionate. Last winter he was still organizing fetish sessions with other kinky men and I let him do so, without even caring too much. Well, he does extremely low-risk activities in terms of STD, and he doesn't emotionally connect with them. So I started getting accustomed to that, in a nonchalant way. Then COVID came, and now I'm quarantined with him for 7 months now. Things are very fine. He cooks and cleans for me. We've been to lots of nice places together. We are sort of official now as a couple. We have quite a lot of sex, a little less frequently, with less energy. I perform less wild things. I watched a lot of porns and FetLife profiles. I organized a threesome with a guy I met on Tinder myself, and I had a lot of fun. I developed some disturbing sex fantasies where I worship BF's body, which I feel like I should stop fantasizing about. So the thing is, my BF became very affectionate to me after all and treats me like a queen. I'm still sort of affectionate to him even though I'm not sure I love him. I think I've been way too traumatized by the introduction of the whole new world, kinky sex/polyamory, and still didn't recover that much. I wonder if this is some sort of Stockholm syndrome where you fall in love with someone who traumatized and hurt you. I have a huge urge to talk about these things to people from my culture, Korea, but all these things sound way too foreign and monstrous and horrible. I once posted this stuff to one of the feminist forums in my native language and the reaction was super negative. People are not familiar with kinks, BDSM, and sex-positive stuff. I feel a bit isolated from my culture. I'm not sure I'm that sex-positive either, though. Too long didn't read, I got traumatized by kinky sex and polyamory stuff that BF introduced to me. Even though now I got a bit used to that, I still feel resentful about it and I don't have people to talk to. What should I do? I'm getting tired of my friends, all they want to do is get drunk and smoke weed. 19F. Lately, I have been going to a rough time because my sister is really sick, she could die. I can't go out because if my sister gets COVID, she couldn't deal with it or fight it. So I'm trying to take care of myself. To take care of her and all my friends want to do is drink or smoke weed. I do not need for them to be constantly checking in with me. I'm okay about my situation but I'm honestly tired that they don't care about anything. I honestly like being alone and don't really need them. I just think we are in different paths right now and they are not adding to my life anymore. They get mad because I don't want to hang out with them but they don't understand that I really can't. They are my only friends and I really love them but I'm just done. I don't know what to do. Am I going to regret leaving them? Also, I am dating someone right now, 22M, which is nothing like them. I actually think I fit more with him. We have similar goals and the same way of thinking. What if I leave my friends and then he leaves me, and I'm all alone? Just tired honestly. We have been friends for 5 years now, since high school. Too long didn't read. I'm tired of my friends and want to leave them because they do not care about anything.